D20radio.com and D20radio.com.
They came from the game table, dice bags in hand,
We have one brain that we share between us.
to talk about role-playing for all across the land.
And you'll like it.
The original, then basic, then one they scoured.
Kinda grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
To bring AD&D to the second power.
You want me to put the hammer down?
Welcome to THACO's Hammer, the best damn AD&D 2nd edition podcast ever.
All right, so are we ready?
I've been ready. I think Full-On's ready.
All right.
Standing by to stand by.
Standing by
All right,
typical soldier.
Ready to
What?
get ready. Yeah.
Ready to get ready. That's what we do around here. Hiya, folks. THACO's Hammer Splat book number 108. That's what we do around here. Get ready to get ready.
You have no idea, folks.
We get on here, and it takes an hour to get ready to get ready.
Yeah.
And then we're almost ready.
Almost, exactly.
And then we start the show, and somebody either screws up the introduction or says, oh, I'm sorry, I have my phone on, or the thing isn't recording, or any other typical things that podcasters do. Hi, I'm DM Glen, by the way. And this show is called If It Bleeds, It Leads.
Yeah. And
Or I wish I had a funnier title.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, that works.
That is DM Brian.
Hey, folks, what's going on?
And we have DM Full-On Gamer with us.
Greetings, Gamer Nation. It is time to fight.
Okay. Somebody give him the pills. And DM Corey will not be with us this week. He is out of town doing out-of-town things.
Yep, doing
So
some
we
family
will
stuff.
catch him. Yeah, we will catch him next time. No problem. Let's go into hits and crits.
Well, one thought he was invincible, the other thought he could fly. So, they were both wrong.
Son of a bitch is dug in like an Alabama tick.
You're hit. You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
We're sending somebody in to negotiate.
Anybody else want to negotiate?
Hits and crits.
Hits and crits. What's up, Full-On? How's the switcheroo going?
Well, the house is getting unpacked. The vehicles are doing their, hey, you road tripped across America. Now we're all going to break. And I'm trying to fix everything again.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is. And, of course, Army being Army, I am going to be out of country in 3 weeks.
3 weeks? Okay.
Oh, boy.
So we're talking about the middle of July.
Ish.
Okay. And hopefully we'll still be able to get in contact with you to do this show.
Eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually.
What part of the world are you going to be in?
Going to Iraq. Again. Where we don't have boots on the ground.
Not anymore.
Again.
Yeah.
I think you should go to someplace interesting, like Sweden.
Oh, Iraq is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, safe interesting. But the only thing you're gonna get in Sweden is probably a venereal disease, and that's treatable. So, but that's my opinion. So Iraq, he's going to Iraq, folks. Yeah. Wish him luck. I wish him luck.
Yeah, I do too.
I wish. Well, that means people on tour will get a break.
The servers won't be
They
stressed.
had a break. I've been moving. They won't get a break because I did pick up my brand new pet Cylon. Known as the Asus gaming laptop that I am taking downrange with me that is Tor capable.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Well, I'm just waiting for my delivery of my Windows 7 Pro disk so I can get that 8.1 virus off of my computer. Before I even turn it on and start the registration process.
You have no idea how much I'm sympathizing with you. I've been so close to pulling the trigger on getting Windows 7 for my own gaming laptop because I'm just like I'm so over 8.1 at this point. I don't know what I'm gonna do about it.
There are a couple of scripts in there about how you can do an authorized rollback. Mm-hmm. They know people are so dissatisfied with it. They have an authorized rollback system where you can back down from 8 to 7. Eventually, if you really want to, you can use your chip or chit to upgrade from 7 directly to 10 when it hits the street later this month.
Later this month? Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, that's how bad they knew they messed up 8. They have 10 out already.
My friend Don, who is always beta testing their stuff, really encourages me to get 10.
Oh, really?
Yes, he says it's that good. And I ran the they got that little thing that shows up. We'll let you know when 10 comes out.
Yeah.
And I ran the little compatibility thing, and it said it's going to have a problem with my graphics on my monitor, which I find really funny because this is one of those all-in-one computer, HP computers, the Pavilions.
Oh, really?
There's no tower.
Oh,
it's
dear.
all graphics.
Oh, boy. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
See, that's why, I mean, one of the guys who used to review Microsoft stuff, he used to be on a podcast I used to watch or listen to. He always said that when there's a new version of a Windows operating system, you wait until the first service pack comes out before you commit to it.
And what is that, a year?
With 8, they went from 8 to 8.1. They didn't even call it a service pack. They just call it 8.1 because they tripped over that so badly.
Yeah.
Don's telling me I don't have to wait, but proof's in the pudding. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, don't wait too long. You can still take advantage of the free. If you want 10, use your thing to get it for free.
I might.
If you are qualifying your upgrade.
Yeah. I put my email in. They're going to let me know when I can do that.
Yeah, I might just go straight to 10 on my laptop.
And if I could get them to slap it on a thumb drive, even better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You'll be able to get it that way. No problem.
They claim in the setup for 10 that not only can you do your I want to have 10 thing, and they will upgrade you to the version of 10 you're supposed to get based on the version of 7 or 8 that you already have. But the process of giving you your version of 10 will include the ability to generate your own personal use digital media disk drive, backup, ISO, whatever you're supposed to have, so that you can have the ever popular, you know what, that whole system restore partition thingy just doesn't work for people these days. I need a disk.
Yeah, a physical disk.
So they've shoved that off onto the consumer. You want a disk? Make your own. Here, we'll let you.
Yeah. Hey.
Somewhere around in this house, I have a thumb drive floating around with the backup of Windows 8 on it. I made it and then I lost it. But it's around here somewhere in a box.
Yeah, so. I mean, I use a third-party program for that stuff. I mean, my main system was so messed up after I reinstalled everything. It was so messed up and I couldn't get certain things to work that I basically rolled back to an image that I made in like last summer. And I've just caught everything back up because, I was not happy with how that turned out.
Hang on, Brian. Hi, folks. Welcome to THACO server.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just imagine, this is the show that Corey missed.
Yeah.
Yes.
God only knows what he would have to say.
So what you up to, Brian?
Oh, not too much. Still slogging through my rewrite of Tegel Manor. Been playing Marvel Heroes pretty much exclusively. I'm getting back into transcribing some of my old characters, bringing them up to speed through Core Rules expansion, and then moving them to a PDF sheet with fillable fields so that I have quote-unquote permanent records. I mean, I have all these files like backed up like 4 times on 4 different clouds just in case. Because when like I said a long time ago, when I moved from Connecticut to Florida back in the 90s, I couldn't take my D&D stuff. I had to have a friend of mine drive it down from Connecticut like 3 months after I moved, and the problem was about 40% of it was missing. Because my parents had moved and they ended up throwing it out. So nice. I'm like, that's never going to happen to me again, ever.
Until your disc crashes.
Well,
anyway,
Glenn?
Oh, yes.
What are you up to?
Well, let's see. What am I up to? I had a I told you about the last D&D game we played, the 5e game with Rain,
Mm-hmm.
who's just learning how to DM, running us through the Legend of Zelda's Hyrule.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some learning to do.
Yep. And it's a question
Yeah,
of who's gonna learn him.
he's yeah. We're approaching railroad levels, and it was yeah. We're all learning him,
Mm-hmm.
but not only railroad levels, but the you should know about this stuff, guys level.
Mm-hmm.
Where like three-quarters of us never played Zelda or played Zelda a long time ago or very rarely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, what is it, moblins instead of goblins,
Yeah.
and they disappear and they disappear when you kill them.
Jeez. Yeah.
Okay, can we set the reset button on the Xbox
Yeah, it would be fine if it would be okay if he was
at the
playing with novices, but I mean, you guys have been playing at least 10 to 15 years minimum.
I've got 30 under my belt.
Yeah, so I'm like, I can understand why it's a little bit frustrating.
Well, it is a little bit frustrating, but he's got a couple more sessions, and we are bound and determined to make him see the light and
Hmm.
help him out as much as we can. I mean, it got so frustrating last time that Matt turned to him and said, "Dude, you had 2 weeks to prepare."
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
there's no
but
reason.
but now that I busted his chops, we got to build him back up. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, this is where you're screwing up. This is how you fix it.
Hmm.
This is, and just give him his head and let him do it right, I guess, if there is a right out there. Let's see. I've got some not since the con. I told you I bought Repan and Thuck for
Hmm.
Swords and Wizardry. Now let me tell you, the Troll Lords people are really, really nice.
Okay.
I cannot remember names.
Hmm.
And I do remember a name, Matt Finch, son of a gun. But
How
I
about that?
bought, yeah, I bought Rapana Thuck, and I vaguely remember something about I get a free PDF with this, right?
Hmm.
And I emailed him, and he says, "Well, I don't know how I'm going to get it to you." And I said,
Can
"It's the
attach
internet.
it.
It's the internet."
Yeah.
No, I didn't say that, but he says get a hold of Kevin, and I got a hold of Kevin,
Hmm.
and he um, he sent me a PDF. He says, "Yeah, go sign in on the Frog God Games," and there it is. And son of a gun, I got. In fact, he messed up the first time.
Uh-huh.
And let's see if I can find it here. Swords and Wizardry complete. Because he gave me the first he gave me the other book they had out that I didn't buy
Hmm.
at the time,
Oh.
Dungeon. But
Did you say anything about that?
um, yes, I did. I had
Oh,
to.
you're
Well,
so honest, Glenn.
well, yeah. But I wanted the actual. He sent me Quests of Doom, which I saw there on the table and didn't buy.
Uh-huh.
Which is their new like adventure anthology out for Swords of Wizardry and Pathfinder.
Right.
And I said, "Thank you very much, but this is Quests of Doom."
Hmm.
And he sends Rapanathuk, and he says, "Oh, sorry, screwed up. Here, now you got 2 books." What a nice guy. These
Yeah.
guys are really nice.
Yes, they are.
And what else have I been doing? I've been face planting myself into Castles and Crusades,
Hmm.
um, and letting my peeps know that when I come back behind the screen for playing fantasy, we're going to be using this. And
Okay.
I got their copy of the Castles and Crusades version of Bluffside, one of my favorite settings, and I've been going through it so I
Hmm.
could do a review on Old Man Grognard for it.
Hmm.
And it's just like I remember, even more so. The Temple District is a crack up. The Temple of Carl.
The temple, the Temple of Carl. I was
Carl
think.
is a gray ooze.
Oh, jeez, really?
Yeah, and it's not an evil temple, but
Okay.
they're all
Yeah,
insane.
they have to be if they're worshiping a gray ooze.
It was something about an adventuring party a long time ago got lost in a dungeon for so long they started hallucinating, and this gray ooze came into the room
Uh
who
huh.
had just been fed on a couple of goblins, so it wasn't hungry. He looked at them and goes, "Uh, all right, fine, I'm going to leave." And he leaves, and he leads them to the exit.
Uh
So they
huh.
go, "He must be a god."
Oh,
We're
wow.
gonna worship Carl.
Oh, wow. Jeez. Unbelievable.
And it was just hilarious. All the priests are called Carl, Carl One. It reminded me of the Electroids. John Big Booty, John
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
Small
yeah.
Berries.
Like this.
Exactly.
You ought to come down here with Carl. Well, all right with you. Yep.
Yeah, and they have a gray ooze they worship down. It's not the original Carl, but they got one, and they said, "Well, we got to feed him, so I guess we're going to go out and look for people at night, and
Oh, wow. Really?
sacrifice them."
Jeez.
Why'd
It's
you
like they're
kill
all
the dwarf fur? Why'd you kill the dwarf fur?
so. So who's out tonight to get more they call them converts.
Oh,
More converts. Oh, Carl 46 is going out with Carl 14, and
wow.
they're going to be. It's
Wow.
just like I'm going to have a lot of fun with
Oh,
this.
boy. Yeah, yeah. This is right up your alley for sure.
This
Oh
is
yeah.
a group of people who need to be playing Paranoia.
Yeah, this
Yes.
this is turning D&D into paranoia for sure. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
But hey, folks, Bluffside Swords and Wizards. Bluffside Castles and Crusades. Get it? It's a great,
And,
great book
and
by Troll Lord Games. Now I've done my plug. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I was going to say, and if you really want to have some fun with the Temple District, incorporate dead gods into that. Or not dead gods, I'm sorry, petty gods into that.
Oh, I will.
Oh,
I will. They
I
actually
knew
have
you would.
They actually have one guy who established a temple to Odin called Valhalla. Odin is not in this world, but
Oh,
he managed to come from another plane
uh-huh,
accidentally,
uh-huh.
and he's such a devout worshiper of Odin that he said he's going to make sure every man, woman, and child know about Odin and worship him if it kills him, and he's like this fierce Viking type warrior,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, and one of the story hooks is if he gets enough worshipers, Odin will come to this dimension and be one of the gods.
That would be funny. That'd be awesome,
Yes. I
actually.
showed that to Matt, who has Mythgarther. I says, guess which dimension I'm going to have him come from?
I'm.
Yours.
Oh God. Yeah.
Mythgartner's all about the Norse and Germanic gods.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's me. Let's get a little bit of emails.
Yeah, we got some emails.
Yes.
I picked three out of the ones we had. Okay.
Me picking my nose. Okay.
Okay, we got one from DM Tim, aka the Dungeon Dude.
Dungeon Dude. Hey.
Okay, hold on a second. I need to increase the. There we go. I can read it now. Okay, he says, Wielders of the Hammer. I have a request slash suggestion that I'll make in a moment, but first a little background. Way back in my early days of gaming, late 70s, early 80s, my older brother and I played 1E. He would DM and I'd play some fighter or thief type. It was all homebrew. I think we might have used the Greyhawk setting a bit, but no published adventures. As a result, I never had the same kind of gaming experience background the average player of the same era might have had, i.e., running Temple of Elemental Evil, Tomb of Horrors, any of the classics. When I got a bit older and I was DMing my own group, I did it the same way. In my case, I used the 2E core books, Forgotten Realms setting, but no prefab adventures. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now that I'm even older and I'm introducing my girlfriend's kids to the game, isn't it funny how that works out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. I'm interested in giving them the gaming experiences I never had, not to mention discovering them for myself for the first time. So, my request suggestion for you guys is, well, I'd really love to hear your experiences about playing or running the classic adventures. I know it's not 2E, but dang it, don't be lawful good on me here. Wow. Jeez, calling us out. Gaming is gaming, and I'm sure the rest of THACO's Hammer's audience wouldn't mind. I've listened to some of the other Wild Game Productions podcasts, and while I enjoy them, I prefer listening to you guys the best. Thank you. I,
Thank you.
I think the chemistry is just right, and I'd really love to hear you guys' on non-2E subjects every so often. Full on, I'd love to hear about you running slash playing Castle Amber. Well, he's asking the wrong person for that. Let's see. Has anyone done Tomb of Horrors or Temple of Elemental Evil? I have multiple times, but okay. I've missed the stuff growing up, so allow me to live vicariously through you. Glenn, I've heard you mention Lamentations of the Flame Princess on other podcasts. Wait a minute.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was like last summer, as a matter of fact. And listen to your interview with James Raggi. I haven't found any of
that was on all that was on Save or Die.
Correct. And actually no, James Raggi was on our show too.
Was he?
Yes, he was.
All right, never mind.
Yes, he was. I haven't found any reviews of it or their other products in Wild Games podcasts. What did you think of it? Have you played Carcosa? Jeez, he's asking a lot. I know this stuff isn't 2E, but you guys are going to run out of 2E splat books sometime. Ran out a while ago. Give it some thought. DM Tim, aka the Dungeon Dude.
Dungeon Dude. First of all, there's more to 2E than just splat books.
Correct.
Yes.
We got a whole run of Dungeon to get through.
Oh God, do we ever?
Yeah. Also, you're talking to the right person with Brian, who's adapting Tegel Manor.
Yep. Yeah, classic one. I've adapted Castle Amber, and also, there was a little Wild Games AP for Castle Amber. I think it's still on iTunes if you want to look for it. But yeah, I don't have a problem in talking about running the older games. I mean, some of them are so
good.
Or
not even the older games, just bootlegging the older modules. A module is a module is a module.
Correct.
I don't care if it has a B label on it, an X label on it, A series, S series, U series. All of them are good material and can basically be run out of the box, out of the wrapper, on the table with a DM adapting on the fly.
Okay.
And if you come from a background of homebrew and just all, you have every tool you need. You can use the framework of a module and wing it.
And let me
anything that is varying from the edition that the module was printed for. And that includes if you want to step up and pull any of the 3E stuff and roll it back into 2E. It's not hard. It's an adventure.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, if you go to like North Texas RPG Con or any other cons where you got the old guard, the Frank Mincers, the Tim Cass, the Jim Wards, where do you get the idea? Where do you think they got the ideas for these modules?
True.
They made it all up.
Yep.
They didn't have modules, just like you didn't.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed.
No, not at all.
Absolutely, and take them all. And for resources, go get yourself either a good authorized PDF vendor from the Wizard site or any of those other places, and get yourself some of the classic super modules. The complete collected Slave Lords module has all of A1, 2, 3, and 4 plus all the little meat that runs in between them.
Correct.
Go get yourself
against the giants.
Yeah, go get all those things.
Yep.
Put them together. Use them to your heart's content. The GDQ.
Yep.
The whole GDQ saga. Take all of it.
Yep.
Put any piece of it you want in any order and just rock your world out and enjoy. They're good material. They're classic adventures for a reason. I mean, the U series is perfect to drop in on anyone, any setting, any game, any edition. The A series, everybody has a Slaver campaign. Everybody wants a Slaver campaign. Use the A series, whether you use it individual modules or the super modules, the super books. All of them are good. Heck, like I said, get yourself that B1 through 9 super book in Search of Adventure.
Yeah.
It's got a whole bunch. Those things are common in used bookstores everywhere.
Yeah, but I would suggest getting the actual modules because the super module cut a whole bunch of stuff out for brevity.
Yes, they did. They did.
Yes, they did. You know what? I just realized I have all 4 of the Slavers modules and I've never looked at them.
I only have 3 and 4. I've never gotten 1 and 2 because even though I could have gotten them, I never really did. And then by the time I really had an interest, the super module came out, so I ended up getting that. Although the funny part is I got it at a not Toys R. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, you guys are old enough.
Yeah.
A KB?
No, Child World. How about that?
No.
Long before they shut down, they were like a toy store on the Eastern Seaboard, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I've got it for $5 because it didn't have the maps in the back.
Oh.
And it was pretty much brand new. I got one of my gaming buddies to make photocopies of the maps, and that's how it is. I still have it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you can get the maps for all this stuff on digits pretty much with a 2-minute Google search anywhere.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Since this is a D&D show, I think I can get away with talking about Castles and Crusades shortly here, seeing as it is a variation on 3rd edition.
You're on the clock, Glenn.
On the clock. Well, a lot of people call it the Rosetta Stone of D&D because you can run anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
That includes, from what I understand, that includes 4th and 5th edition stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Because it converts really, really easy. So don't limit yourself if you have it to like the older modules and stuff. And you know what I realized the other day? I could buy Pathfinder stuff and run this stuff.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
could.
Which kind of hurts a bit. And I'm looking on my shelf and says, "Ooh, finally Eberron in Castles and Crusades."
Yes.
I love me some Eberron.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and you know, I'm just using Castles and Crusades is the easiest one to do it with, but you can do it with the other editions.
Mm-hmm.
Go up and back. It's easy to go from second back than it is from third forward.
Uh-huh.
I
agree.
Well, I'm saying if you got basic and you want to run a third edition module, you're going to be doing a lot more work as if it was like second or first edition module.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I run Star Wars with those modules, so I don't care.
Yeah, but I think we're kind of missing the point a little bit. He wants us to kind of regale him with some tales about running and playing these classic models because he never got the opportunity to do so.
Well, I can
Although,
make stuff up.
yeah, I'm gonna put it in hits and crits for like another show because there's one show I have coming up in the pipe that there are no other topics except hits and crits because there's an email from this guy Mike who has this whole spiel about power gaming. I mean, the email is long, and there are enough bullet points in there that I could find that there's enough for a good hour conversation on it. So that's an entire show in itself. We can do the same thing here.
Did we do a show about adapting?
Yeah, we did.
And rescape. We should really revisit that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem
from some of the other stuff that's out there too.
Yep. So yeah, I'm typing it out right now. It's going to be requested by this guy. So yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Dungeon Dude.
Mm-hmm.
And who else we got?
All right, let's see what we got here. Whoops, wrong browser, Brian. There we go. I'm going to put this in the archive. And, okay. We got one from our friend Eamon. Okay, he says...
Hi, Eamon.
Hey, Eamon. Hey, guys. Okay, 2 more things real quick. 1, as much as I completely missed out on Dragon Magazine back in the day, I did not miss out on the AD&D comic books by DC. Neither did I. It was as vital and important a piece of the D&D world to me as some well-known books about a certain drow elf might be for some other people. Now, come on now. They are super expensive online, but worth a look at. A lot of issues had stats for monsters and characters in the back and other goodies that tied them directly into the game in a real way. Excuse me. They eventually spawned the Forgotten Realms and Spelljammer comics. Does anyone else remember these? I do.
I do.
Mm-hmm. I loved them.
Let me tell you something. Every year, and now it's probably next year it's going to be gone. Watch. Every year I go to North Texas, and every year Bad Mike, has his wares out there, Judges Guild and other things, and he always has this big pack for like $50 of the entire run of
the DC
the DC AD&D comics.
Oh,
and I never buy. Every year I go, I should buy that.
That's AD&D. That's AD&D, Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms, Spelljammer. I'm missing one.
No, these were. He just had the AD&D.
Oh,
he used to have the Forgotten Realms run too, but somebody bought it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I go for the trade paperbacks, but I have some of those indeed as well.
Yeah,
They have trade paperbacks for the D&D stuff.
Yes, I found them on PDF. Believe it or not.
I would love to get trade paperbacks for those if I could find them.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? You could probably find them. It'll probably cost you a pretty penny because those comics are 20 plus years old now.
Well, I figure the trade paperbacks may have reprinted them recently or something.
Those are more recent productions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, then I can find them in comic book stores or something.
But I mean, as far as the comics went, I loved it. I love the story behind it, even though a couple of characters were kind of confusing to me. Kiriani being one of them. I love the paladin who had a drinking problem. I loved the Japanese warrior who was completely out of her element living in the Western world, and then her and the paladin falling in love slowly but surely.
And that's how you do a monk in D&D.
Yeah, pretty much. And the funny thing is that Jeff Grubb, who created most of these characters, he revisited it in an issue of Dragon magazine where he did complete stats for everybody at the
Nice.
end. You know, I mean, the dwarf trapped in the body of an iron golem. You know, it was awesome stuff. I loved it.
You know, if you look at the first D&D movie in that light,
I can't.
it comes off like an issue of the comic.
I could argue that, but I see your point, and I won't.
It comes off more as someone tried to do a live action of the D&D cartoon, which will have its own problems.
Yeah,
I'd rather think about the DC comics, especially if you can like fit Jeremy Irons into an issue.
Oh, cool. Well, just have him play the freaking egotistical mage. That's all. Yep. I forget what his name is, but yeah, him, the guy who's in charge of the ship. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just have him play that guy. I have no problem with that.
Him and his dragon, Mr. Blue Lips.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I loved it. I never really got into the Dragonlance ones, really. You know, I never got into I never saw the Spelljammer ones, but the AD&D and Forgotten Realms ones, yeah, I swear by those. Those are awesome. You know, okay, that's his first question. Okay, second, your advice on world building for my one-shot question was great, but I have another idea. A lot of shows similar to yours occasionally hold one-page adventure contests. They're all often system neutral at best, but they are never for second edition D&D. I think it would be freaking awesome if you guys sponsored a one-page adventure contest. I might be able to even pull off some stuff on the shelves for a prize or two. I make paper minis. Maybe I could throw in some custom paper minis for it. Either way.
Oh yeah, that'd be freaking awesome.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is that we just have to do it like we did this last contest, where one person is the source for the prizes, so we're not taking 6 to 8 months getting it sent around the country to where all our locations, and then sent off to the winners. But sure, I don't see why not. I would love to see what some people come up with.
I just put them on my closet.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about that with Corey and see what we can come up with.
That would be a good idea, yes.
Yeah. Let's do that. Okay, and that was his email.
What do you know, Brian? Anyway, thank you.
Not a whole lot. I try to think, but nothing happens.
That's right. Thank you,
Eamon. Yep.
E-man.
Yep.
E-man. A man?
E the man.
Okay, one more.
All right. Okay, this is from FD.
Hey,
okay. He's asking about wizard spell schools. This is an interesting question, actually. How do you handle the 8 schools in your campaign? Are they actual schools? How are wizard schools in your campaign in general? Are they similar to modern day universities? Are they Harry Potter style? Okay, that's the first question.
Harry Potter style.
Oh God, no! Sorry. There ain't no games of Quidditch in my campaigns. No.
By Harry Potter style.
Mm-mm.
I think I go a little bit more either Revenge of the Nerds or Animal House, where the schools of magic, depending on where you are, you're either living in where magic is being taught like in community.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a wizard around teaching magic, you might be a general practitioner mage and be learning mage as a mage and just be kind of there. But if you want to be a specialist wizard, either you're dealing with another specialist wizard who also happens to be living out in the wilderness trying to do his own farmland thing, and he's teaching you his illusions or necromancy or whatever it is that he's doing. Or you've actually gone to a more cosmopolitan area, kind of like a Waterdeep or something like that, where, you'll find, colleges of magic and the different schools of magic will be managed and run basically like frats.
Yeah, I could see that.
A combination of that or just the scholastic disciplines of university, which is why Eberron is awesome, because they give you the University of Sharn.
Yes.
I mean, they have the Module College of Wizardry, which we covered. That's actually a nice. Even if you don't drop the thing wholesale into your campaign, it gives you a really good primer about the goings on in such a place where there are your generalist mages and you have your invokers, you have your transmuters, you have your enchanters, and how they do things, or even just the personality of the people in charge of those schools. With
Right.
me, I really haven't addressed it too much, but I think what I did was I was so enamored with College of Wizardry, I just decided that in the future, in my Mystara campaign in Karamakos, there are some ruins to the north of the capital city. And in the capital city itself, there's like a 20th level mage and like his 18th level assistant or whatever, and they run a small school. Sooner or later, usually by the PCs or maybe even by, just the passage of time, those ruins to the north are, infested with humanoids and blah blah blah, and
Oh
you
yeah.
figure out how to do it. The way I did it in my campaign was is those ruins, it was sort of like I want to say an Undermountain Light. It was an evil Galantrian wizard who was summoning these humanoids and having them lair in these ruins and boil up out of the ruins to, raid the countryside, blah, blah, blah. And it was going to be an adventure idea where the players were going to go in there and shut it down. And then those two mages I previously mentioned were going to take over the ruins and turn it into a college of magecraft. Um,
And
so
then you have the itinerant mages who travel from town to town
yeah, of course.
and teach their wares for a price.
I mean, almost in almost every town in my Mystara campaign, there's at least one or two wizards who can teach lesser mages, whatever they want to and whatever they need, whether it just be spells or training for to achieve the next level when I used it.
Yeah, you train the farmers or whatever to whatever.
Yeah.
I keep thinking, if you use Dimension Door to get rid of your cow manure, you just might be a hedge wizard.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, I didn't really get into it too much. It was just a rough idea, but I kind of did it sort of Oxford style. I mean, not quite as buttoned up and stuffy, but it was, most of it was serious.
Uh-huh.
Jokesters and pranksters were dealt with rather harshly because using magic in their pranks usually resulted in unintended effects.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah, what's up?
There's in Bluffside. There's an actual guy who has a privy that he has a dimension door on the bottom, and it transports the waste like 100 miles into the woods. And I was thinking, what is the one prank that farm boys like to do? One of the pranks that farm boys like to do is
Saw the
to
bottom
go.
of the outhouse.
I was thinking more like in the middle of the night, move the outhouse back so when somebody goes out there, they fall in the hole.
Oh,
Only this time they fall in the hole and end up 100 miles away
yeah,
in a
exactly.
pile of stuff.
Uh-huh. With a couple of angry druids wondering where this crap is coming from,
Exactly.
so to speak. But yeah, so, yeah, I didn't treat it too serious, but yeah. I mean, it was okay. It was just an idea. I never really fleshed it out though.
It's not bad.
No, not bad at all.
Not
And
bad at all.
you can steal shamelessly from any of your number of sources, whether it's one of the various fictionalized schools of magic type approaches that are out there for anything and everything. The Apprentice novels, the Wizard of Rue Morgue novels, all the
Magician.
things that are out there. The Magician novels, heck, Harry Potter or not Harry Potter, Harry Dresden.
Thank you. I was just about to
You
mention that.
that gives you a totally awesome school of magic approach, white council type thing or whatever.
Hmm.
You can take whatever is going to suit your campaign best and use it in your sources. Usually you don't need to go so
There
far as
you
to
go.
detail out the
Yeah.
entire academy unless you've got a very magic or magic user centered campaign, and that's like
Correct.
your origin of adventurers, home base of operations, or mission dispatch center that you're getting your operations from.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, and like I said, there are so many outside sources that you can lift and shift, as Full On likes to say, you know, that you can create with a little bit of sideways thinking added to that. You can make it completely your own. It's not that difficult.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And I'm totally run out of ideas. So,
greetings, students. I am
good
the
night. Anyway,
Dean of Illusions.
Oh yeah, you want to go with Illusions the way it's been going lately? Try the Mary Gentry series by Laurel K. Hamilton.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's getting pretty dark. But yeah, but
don't make me mention Castles and Crusades again. Stop it.
okay. Moving
They,
right
they,
along.
they have an interesting take on illusions, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Anyway, who was that?
That was
FD?
Yeah, that was FD.
Thank you, FD. And if you guys want to send something in, you can send it to it at thacoshammer@gmail.com.
And we have a number. Sorry.
Number one. No.
Yeah. The number is 405-806-0555.
Oh yeah. Corey, you're here in spirit. So,
yep.
Let us move on to 99% perspiration.
Brilliance. That's all I can say. Sheer, unadulterated brilliance.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
I'm laughing at the superior intellect.
Okay, so how do you do that?
I do work, bitch.
99% perspiration.
99% perspiration.
Easy for you to say.
It'll come out eventually. Tips, once again, part 3 of our tips for beginning DM series.
Mm-hmm.
The opposition.
Yes.
Which means the bad guys.
Yes.
Or the rivals. Or the people. The obstructive bureaucrats. Any people who are opposed to the PCs.
Oh, yeah, geez. I was just thinking of the monsters that the players need to kill in order to succeed, but geez, you decide to open it up to various levels now.
Monsters, yeah, there's monsters everywhere, and they're not always animal.
No, that's true. And sometimes they're vegetable, sometimes they're even mineral. How about that?
And sometimes they're just human.
Yeah, that's true too. Now, as far as this goes, I was just thinking, Glenn, you had a rather infamous story about when you were, when you first DM'd and you kind of overdid it.
Oh, yeah. The 4 giant spiders.
The 4 giant spiders against first level party, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, as a beginning DM, and I had this problem, so don't feel bad, Glenn. I've had this issue more often than I care to admit. But the hardest part about actually stocking a dungeon or even just doing a random encounter is just keeping, not even making sure, but just keeping an eye on what the players are up against, and not only that, knowing your players. Because we've discussed this before about, and Full On said it himself, sometimes it doesn't matter what the opposition is. If the players think they're badass, they're going to draw down and try to kill it.
Exactly.
And sometimes they're going to get spanked. They're going to get bloody.
Their noses get their bloody. Asses handed to them.
Yeah, or
it
that.
It will happen. And on occasion, when you think you've got it in the bag and they should run, and you're about to hand it to them, they pull something out of their asses, and then they win when they're not supposed to. And then what do you do? They're both bad scenarios.
Yeah, and not only that, it could even come down to the luck of the dice. A missed saving throw will do it. That just random happenstance and chance has derailed a DM, or at least reduced him to fuming silence more often than not. You know what I mean?
I never get derailed, ever.
Yeah, that's true. You that's what I envy about you as a DM, Glenn. You think really well on your feet.
Yeah, it's the first time I've heard that. No, seriously. No, I just regroup and make a side, I do an end run.
Yeah, sometimes you have to. It's true. Yeah. I mean, I've had to learn it the hard way, but yeah.
Some of the things to keep in mind for that is, again, what are you building your opposition from? Keep this in mind. If you're using a stock adventure,
yes.
You pulled it off the shelf, you unwrapped it from its plastic wrap, you flipped it open, and you started reading box text. There is something almost universally undone about these where 100% of everybody is straight down the middle average hit points.
Mm-hmm.
I go through on even a stock module, going back to DM Tim's, or Tim's question,
Mm-hmm.
I will re-roll all the hit points for everything in the adventure.
Okay.
Except maybe a major NPC. And maybe even them too. Just because I want to have the natural spread of hit points. There are going to be things that have more than 6 hit points.
True.
There are going to be things that only have about 3. And then
Mm-hmm.
you can include that in your descriptors of the combat when they're having the throwdown and they're meeting this opposition. This guy is kind of already beaten, battered, bruised, sickly looking. I don't know. This guy, he's a goblin, but he looks like he could bench press 2 dwarves. I don't know. Take a swing at him, see what happens. You know?
Yeah, exactly. You know.
I done that before. I get lazy like any other GM
Mm-hmm.
because I will look because most of the blocks I see usually go goblin, gives you the hit dice and then gives you a hit point. This is how many hit points this goblin has. I've been lazy in taking that number instead of rolling it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are a lot of times I had Gage was fighting like 8 goblins and I re-rolled every single dang one of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the funny part is that when I'm planning out an adventure, well, I'm doing it with THACO Manor, as a matter of fact. I use a random dice roller. Sometimes I use an app on my phone. Other times I use a dice roller included with the Core Rules expansion. But either way, I find this is something I've been doing for years, and maybe it's unfair of me, and maybe it's not. But when I'm rolling, say one, maybe as many as 2 or 3 monsters in an encounter, I will roll sets of hit points for them.
Okay.
You know, and sometimes I'll take the highest set, sometimes I'll take the medium or the lowest set. And another thing I used to do is when I had, like, say there's a room with like let's see, let's use freaking gargoyles as an example. 4+4 hit dice. One thing I would do is that I would roll like 5 sets. I would take the highest number, whatever that number was, and then I would start rolling d4s or d6s and subtracting that number from that highest number and going straight down the line.
Interesting.
You know, I just figured it made for a good spread of hit points, like Full On was saying. You know, and then of course there were times where I'm like, I am not in the mood. I want this dungeon to really be hard. I want the players to sweat their way and fight their way and claw and bleed and
maximum hit points.
Yeah, maximum hit points the whole way through. That's my B4 Lost City adaptation, but there's a reason for that. It's not just the DM being sadistic. It's magic. There's a reason for it.
Okay.
So, I've done it very multiple different ways.
Now,
and going back to, you mentioned the expansion, use the D&D Core Rules 2.0 and the expansion if you have them. They can generate opposition parties for you.
Correct.
I need a band of 20 orcs. Here's a band of 20 orcs.
Yep.
I need 15 elves. Here's 15 elves.
Yep.
And you can get names even with them just to help take another little load off your DM back.
Yeah. Although those names they generate are pretty weird.
They're sometimes pretty sad. But
yeah.
You can use lots of these.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not just for creating characters and creating dungeon maps. It's also good for, like Full On said, they actually have in the monster section, they have all you have to do is click like 3 buttons and it will give you a full encounter with treasure. And if the whatever container the treasure is in is trapped, I mean, it's from soup to nuts. I mean, if you can find it, it's expensive now, but if you can find it, it's worth it for a second edition DM. You did?
Yeah, I had it and the expansion, and now I don't know where they are. And that was like 3 computers ago.
Oh wow, Glenn, talk to me after the show.
I will.
Okay.
But
other things to consider in the opposition, other than just the raw hit points and how many what's and who's it you're fighting,
Yep.
is, hey, what are we setting up as an opposition? Are we setting up like we were talking about at the beginning? Is this the monsters in the wilderness? Is this the other army, the evil empire? Is this competition with the most dangerous threat to PCs, other
Other
PC-classed
PCs.
individuals?
Absolutely.
Rivals after the same goal. I mean, how bad does Indiana Jones feel every damn time the little whiny German guy shows up grabbing stuff?
Yeah, Toad. Exactly.
Yeah, which is what he does. But and also if you're going old school and dead tree and using books and stuff for these things, NPCs and stuff, about half the NPC books I have in the back adventure parties.
Yep, pre-generated. Yep.
A full adventure parties, right? Pre-gen, right there.
Right.
Take them, use them as is, twist them around, do whatever you want with them.
I mean, you could use freaking the Shady Dragon Inn.
Dragon Inn. If you're AD&D Rogues Gallery.
Yeah, I was just getting to that. Yeah, Rogues Gallery. And although with second edition they decided to just go full on NPCs with their Rogues Gallery, but yeah, the first edition Rogues Gallery is good just for saying, okay, I'm gonna pick this fighter, that cleric, this mage, that thief, this assassin, and that's the adventuring party.
Kind of work together. It'll mesh.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, like Full-On said, I mean, aside from your dragons, your giants, your extra planers, and things like that, yeah, the toughest thing PCs will run into are other PCs, especially if you, as the beginning DM, this is where it kind of, this is where you kind of have to be a little devious. This is one where you have to kind of take some notes from your players about how they run into stuff and how they react to this kind of force against them or that opposition against them, or if they get jumped out in the wilderness by just something that happens upon them. Take a couple of notes here and there. See what they do. See how they prepare. And then you use those strategies against them and see just how good their player characters are and how good they are as players.
And as far as like NPCs go, let me plug one more thing before we leave this section of it.
Okay.
I have a copy of Engine Publishing and Gnome Stew's Masks. 1,500 memorable NPCs for any role-playing game. It may not have stats, but it has appearance, role-playing personality. But in the back, they've got appendixes. Oh, boy.
Appendices, yes.
Appendices. They give you great game mastering advice, but they have it sectioned off to fantasy, sci-fi, and modern, villains, neutrals, and allies. But the indexes,
that's awesome.
NPCs by traits, NPCs by name, NPCs by author, NPC groups appendix. It won't give you groups, but what it will do is you can go through this book using that appendix, and you can use that to put groups together. It'll say, okay, you want like a medium level party? All right, take this guy from here, this guy from here, this guy from here, this guy from here, and boom, you have a party of relatively equal, power. And that is fantastic. It's mass. You get it from Engine Publishing, $35. It's worth every penny of it. But anyway, that's my other plug. So, what we talking about? Encounters. Oh, yes. The bad guys and opposition. Yes, encounters. I had something to say, but I forgot what it was, so take it full on.
Okay. What else you need to remember is whatever you put out there as the opposition, whether it is just friendly rivals or actual nemesis, understand that you're putting it on the table, the players are going to want to kill it, and they're going to want to take its stuff. And if they're successful, they will take whatever the stuff is that you equipped that opposition with. So if you put it in the adventure, expect it to end up in players' hands. Or be prepared and understand the consequences of allowing it to end up in players' hands. It's going to happen whether you wanted it to or not. And the first and truest sign of a railroad is when the DM starts talking more than the players, and things that are supposed to be loot suddenly turn into it ran off with the goblin, it's not available, it fell off the cliff into the bottomless pit. People are going over that cliff into the bottomless pit. They're going to get the staff. They're going to get the wand. They're going to get the sword, or die trying.
Yeah.
Or you can only do this so many times. Well, you killed the 2 ogres, but they only had a couple of silver and a broken knife on them.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah,
you can only do that so many times.
Yeah, I am in complete agreement with that, and that's one of the things as a player I absolutely despise. We've heard a couple of stories about the bait and switch the DMs pull because they don't want their players to have whatever MacGuffin it was.
Yeah. Well, I'm
And
not talking about they never had anything in the first place. So I'm saying you can't put too many destitute monsters in front of them. And after a while, they're going to go, "Are we ever going to get anything?"
yeah, I mean that's one of the measures. What, be it right or wrong, that's one of the measures that that D&D players measure themselves as a as put it as a level of success. How much
Yes.
stuff they have, how much gold they've got, how much how many magic items they have. That's
Why am I 5th level and have no plus anything items?
Yep, exactly.
And
Because you're a swashbuckler and you have a saber and rapier, and all I gave you was broadswords and two-handed swords and falchions.
Is that a shot at me?
No.
I'm just checking.
Well, it could be.
Yeah, it could
ring.
be.
I'm good.
Okay. And
no swords though, but yeah, I ended up with a ring.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Hang on.
I got a ring. No, wait. I got a ring. Yeah.
If we ever get back to that game,
horrible things happen when people end up with rings. Don't you know that?
didn't we just
as a player?
Yeah. Didn't we watch like 9 to 12 hours of movie about that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I mean, but getting back to it, I mean, as far as the opposition goes, if you're setting up the opposition, understand that number one, it's never about you versus your players. Understand that. It's not personal. It's
right.
if you're going to be the DM, you have to you have to drape yourself in the Swiss flag and be neutral
versus the world.
Correct. But the world isn't out to get them unless they're in that kind of
world
location.
Is just being the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, unless it's Dark Sun. So
yeah,
yes.
where the actual planet can kill you.
Let me talk about encounter. I'm biting my tongue saying encounter level. I'm dying a little inside bringing this up.
It'll be all right, Glenn.
But planning encounters. Let's go like that.
Okay.
There are different ways you can do it. There's an interesting way in the rule cyclopedia. There's other ways everybody seems to have their own personal way on how to make how to make an interesting encounter, how to make a good encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And some people take it the mathematical way.
Mm-hmm.
Some people I do it a really simple way, and I've said this before. I've said this on Save or Die. Okay, how many levels in a party? Okay, how many hit dice does this creature have? Okay, yeah, they're kind of equal. Let's go.
Okay.
Well, examining Castles and Crusades, which is actually a riff on 3rd edition, which shows you how much I paid attention when I used to play 3rd edition.
Mm-hmm.
I found out that all the monsters are not a D8.
No.
No, they are
not in that session, not in that thing. And matter of fact,
that is a useful tool at the DM's disposal as well.
All of a sudden, all that simple thing just got thrown out the window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it requires a little bit more thought, and
it's not worth it. And I told people on Troll Lord, I said, look, all my monsters are going to get D8. I'm sorry. I'm going back to D8. I told this to Matt, and he goes, well, yeah, but that doesn't work out because then, a dragon with 530 hit points now only has 468 hit points. It's like, that's a real big difference.
Think about the damage output your party has.
I'll remember that 50 to 75 point difference while it's chewing up the players.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where I have kind of issues with Matt's DMing style, but I don't play under him, so I don't have that big of an issue.
I have no problem with it. It's just that, we have our differences, and that's that. So
yeah, but I mean, that's the other thing, and you want to know what this whole thing about increasing hit dice size isn't exactly new. It was suggested back in first
decreasing if necessary. I mean, this is the sickly band of goblin or orcs that They have lived on a diet of snails and swamp frogs for the last 3 generations, and the whole tribe has gone down to being just D6 orcs.
No, I agree. Or even just in like one of my favorite supplements by Roll Age, Dark Folk, they have elite orcs which have D10s.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I'll break out of Urukai in a moment on you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You will not like it.
Yeah. They're tough mofo's. But I mean, but this is something that went back in a Dragon magazine article. God only knows which one it was. I can't remember.
Several.
Yeah, but it's something that is suggested just so that. And the funny part is that yeah, in multiple games there has been that metagame moment where it's like I've inflicted personally 54 points of damage, and the other fighter over there has inflicted 46. And how many hit points? And you look at the DM and you go, how many hit points does this thing have? And DM just looks at you, grins, and says a lot. It's one of those.
Yeah.
But yeah.
More than one left.
Yes.
But what I'm saying, I have my simple little formula to determine good encounters. I throw it out the window. I got nothing left because I ain't doing math.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you shouldn't have to go overboard with math just to make your game interesting. The other thing.
Use the math if you're doing like pregame and you're doing preparation and you can think along those lines. But remember also, you're the DM.
Yeah,
so the math can go out the window at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
That whole every hit point roll in a pre-gen adventure is average. Well, they've cakewalked these last couple things and they're being snarky. So these guys are going to have more hit points. I don't care what the paper says. They did a really good thing. They had a really smart plan. They took advantage of some stuff. Or they've just had everybody's rolled horrible dice. They're having the raw end of the deal. Maybe this band of ogres had already been in a fight, killing the opposition party of the other PCs that were in here last week, and they haven't healed yet. So they're kind of they drop sooner. Maybe yes, maybe no. That's the DM's call, and you have that right from behind the screen. It's not cheating, but it also is not script immunity.
Yeah,
true.
No plot armor here.
Yeah.
Watch this. I've done all this like venting my spleen on this, and now every con I go to, I want to get in Glen's game. We're gonna clean up.
And that's when you're like, not so fast, my friends.
Yes.
Whatever you get, you're going to earn it. Yes. Sorry, I went John Houseman on you. But yeah, I mean but for the beginning DM, because we kind of get off on these tangents because but it's just one of these things where, at least in the lower levels, I mean, we've talked about this several times in the last few episodes, but in the lower levels, you have to kind of pay attention to what you're putting your party up against. And sometimes the party's going to be outnumbered, and they have to have it in their heads at some point they need to run away, run and fight another day. Sometimes they need to know that they outnumber the opposition 2-1 and it's going to be an easy fight. But at the same time, it's like it's not always going to be a cakewalk, and it never should be a cakewalk.
Recently, Matt in his Thursday game came up with Knights of Orcus.
That
he statted for 5e. That I looked at them, and they have challenge level in 5th edition.
Yeah.
Challenge level 14.
Jeez.
And I thought that was pretty high, and I said, "What, Death Knights are too wussy for you?"
Well,
he says, "Well, Death Knights are challenge level 17." Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I kind of understand what they were going for when they put out the challenge rating. I understand that.
Me too, but I think it's unnecessary.
Yeah, I do too. I've always thought it was. I mean, I understand. Like I said, I get what they were going for, and for new players who are running 3E, they kind of need that until they kind of get their feet wet and they get a sense of what's going on. But
I'm always mean about that in the 3E anyway, because I would always reverse engineer the party, not the adventure, or not the encounter.
Okay.
Good idea.
I would assess what is this party of adventurers as an encounter level. And that's what I base my encounters off of, not the other way around.
Hmm.
And they end up
Interesting.
with knockdown, drag-out fights as a result.
Right.
Often.
Hey, it happens.
But
right.
the game is predisposed at that stage of evolution to try to cakewalk everybody. So I don't like that.
Yeah, they try. Yeah, especially with the way they redid the experience point tables. It's designed to get you up around 4th or 5th level within a couple of sessions.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I discovered something interesting running Savage Worlds in Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
You know how you have like everybody has 3 hit. The main characters have 3 hit points basically.
Right.
You know how the damage works in that. And I'm going, oh, great, I can throw a lot of things up there. And it's like it'll be fun and furious and fast, like they say. But it's like all of a sudden the toughness became real important. That's like saying in the D&D, you each get 3 hit points, so your armor class is really important.
Right. Yeah. And at the first couple of levels, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I mean, and that's also something that you have to sort of keep track of, is that, yeah, if you're running from scratch and you're starting at first level and your players are, I would say, moderately to semi-moderately equipped, just understand that getting through like a module, say like Keep on the Borderlands, that's going to take several weeks of game time, or several months, I should say, because they're going to be doing sorties, running into the orc lair, fighting some orcs, and running out because they're getting pounded, even though they're giving as good as they're getting, and and of course that's the other thing that I have a love-hate relationship with this concept, and the concept of passage of time. In these kind of games, in these kind of modules that are, venerable 35 years old at this point, that the enemy is static. They don't move. They stay where they are. In some DMs cases, they don't adapt different tactics. And in that case, to me it's like, one of these things where, if let's just say the party goes in and goes after the orcs, gets maybe halfway to the chieftain, mows down a bunch of orcs, but they're hurt, so they go back to the keep to rest.
Right.
And now my whole thing is, the chief is a little bit smarter, so he's going to send a scout to follow them at a discreet distance to know where they're going and knowing how they're getting there. And then when the party decides to return to the Caves of Chaos, there's going to be a rather nasty ambush waiting for them on the road.
Okay.
And it's things like that that I'm, okay with. Now, as a player, I played in a 3E game where the DM was running classic modules. We were playing in, I think we were playing Temple of Elemental Evil, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
And the funny thing was, we went in there. No, I take that back. We were doing against the giants. That's what it was. We went into the hill giant lair. Now, 3E giants are even tougher than 2E, but we went in there. We got maybe 1/3 of the way through it before we ran out of spells, and we were really low on hit points, and we had to go and rest. By the time, and now this is the way the DM was thinking, because we whittled their numbers down to such a degree, even though we only were like 1/3 of the way through. By the time we got back to the steading, they they pulled up stakes and left. And the DM would do this several times throughout the game, and it's like, why are you doing this? Why? I mean, why? I mean, I get it.
Splitting the difference, because sometimes people forget that, what, this isn't, insert coin to continue, and they're going to still be in the same room, ignoring the fact that 97% of the tribe has been slaughtered outside before everyone ran away, and then, we're just going to hang out here and play cards until the party comes back.
You mean they doesn't play it like Gauntlet with monster generating machines?
or that too, where it's suddenly like, oh yeah, well, you've been gone for every day that you're gone from the caves, this many more people breed in, or reinforcements come from the outlying tribes, or hunting parties return. So
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
All the adventure, all the encounter areas maybe have half again as many as they started with, but they have people in them, so it's not just going through cleared stuff. If you don't clear and hold, you don't hold.
True. Very true. And that's something that, I tried to convey even running Hammers of the Duchy. You guys only left that place twice. And both times it was like, okay, you and I had to think about it. I'm like, okay, the king has noticed that his force is being whittled down by some party, but at the same time he was arrogant and thought that, well, we are superiorly armed, superiorly equipped. We are going to take these people out eventually. We're going to wear them down to nothing because that's what's happened. But in the end, he was still smart. He still would double, would double the patrols. Not only in number but in frequency. It's just the fact that, I'm rolling for encounters while you guys are going through the monastery, and I'm just not rolling for, random encounters all that much. Otherwise you guys would have noticed that. And not only that, they would be setting up ambushes in corridors, around corners, in T sections, in four ways, all that kind of stuff. And it just never came about. So I was just like, okay.
My brush, or my experience with Night Below, was with a DM who did not want to kill characters.
Ugh.
That's almost worse than a killer DM.
In some ways, yeah.
I wouldn't believe how many times we had to go to the surface to regroup. He never restocked, but by the time we screwed up the
Kuatoa City?
No, the temple dedicated to the slimes, molds, and jellies.
Oh,
okay. Oh, that place.
Yeah. By the time we
that's
screwed
a place you're just supposed to. You're supposed to just get past that as fast as you can.
Yeah, without dying.
Exactly, but our clear decided he wanted to desecrate it.
Yeah, everybody wants to. Again,
you throws the holy
dangle
water.
the carrot.
Right.
Players go for it.
Yeah.
But that ended up ending the session because he was afraid to let us go back down because he kept rolling. Okay, there's this many slimes, molds, and jellies. Now there's this many. After every day, it's like, yes, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just let us die and, reset or restock or whatever the hell I have to do? We'll just run some more characters through it.
And that's where you've got to be prepared as the DM to shift the script, undo the rail, shift the track of your rails, and afford another opportunity. Hey, you know what? The train isn't working. Maybe we should, take a zip line. That is why the Night Below is a perfect example of, spoiler, they design it to give you a hell to crawl all the way into the deepest depths of the Underdark, whereupon you're supposed to acquire the ability and the alliance with the teleport nodes so that you don't have to foof it anymore. You just bing, in, out, bing, in, out.
Right.
And you're of a level to have your own transport magic by some miracle by that point. And overcome the Underdark restrictions.
Yes.
That's okay. But you need to be able to flex on that and say, you know what, maybe it's time for you guys to find one of these nodes, the paired node on the surface, or one that's paired to a place you've already been, or a one-way, or something like that.
Right.
A shortcut, an alternate that's not going to derail the plot or make you think that you're hand-holding everyone, but you don't want to just run people through a meat grinder, pull back, reset, and then just keep the crank turning and say, come on back, come on back, come on back, and don't talk to me about the murder hole. I don't run it that way.
Well, full on. When you first presented the murder hole, I'm like, oh my god.
It's called that for a reason.
Yeah. I know. It's a temple to what's his name? Mask. Not Mask.
Ball.
Thank you. Yeah, I get it. It's supposed to be deadly.
Gentlemen.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we must move on.
Yes, let's do that.
So if you guys got any, let us know how the series. First of all, let us know how we're doing with the series. And if you got any ideas for this or any other part of the series, give us a shout out at thacoshammer@gmail.com.
Yep.
Let's go down to Rule 0.
Am I the only one around here who gives a f*** about the rules?
Hey, rules are, there ain't no rules.
Hey! Ladies! That was fun!
Thank you for a very enjoyable day.
Rule 0.
0. Okay, handling combat. What to roll, when to roll it, and when to just give up and walk away. No, we don't do that.
Yeah,
I've never seen a DM do that.
No. When a DM does that, it's when some player just gets it in his head and he's playing a paladin badly and says death before dishonor. That's when the DM just gets up and walks away.
Rain almost did that.
No, that's when we kill a paladin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, rocks fall, everybody dies. Yeah.
Anyway, combat to me is the simplest thing to do in a role-playing game.
Correct, but some people have different methods of doing it, and some people kind of don't understand why.
We could sit here and talk for another hour just on initiative and combat order.
Yeah, we could. And well, let's just keep it simple. I mean,
start with initiative. What to roll?
Yep.
You can roll individual initiative, group initiative, or
combination of both.
Combination of both, yeah. Depending.
You can, and at that point, you can either leave it fixed for the fight, or you can re-roll every round.
Which is funny because I never heard of static initiative until 3E came out. I never heard of it.
I never heard about it until 5E came out.
It is very static because there's all kinds of things you can choose to do that reorder your place in initiative, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's true.
Matt, we tried it for like 3 sessions. He found said this isn't working. Let's go back to individual. But our standard thing is always individual for the PCs. The monsters get a group initiative.
Correct, unless there's some big
or possibly
bads.
Several groups, like the orcs get this initiative, the hobgoblins get this initiative, and the lizard.
I never mix them, so.
We'll see.
Yeah, and then you barrel through them as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, take the last fight in Hammers of the Duchy where you had the Hobgoblin Chieftain, you had the Bugbear Chieftain, you had the Hobgoblin's bodyguards, then you had Hobgoblins themselves and a Hobgoblin Mage in there as well. So I had to roll like 5 different initiatives for the opposition. I didn't have a problem with it because it makes combat interesting. But in that case, sometimes it comes to one die for the opposition, sometimes maybe even 2, on rare occasions 3 or more.
And it seems like you got to number them and stuff, or say the guy in the blue vest or something. One thing I enjoyed about Savage Worlds at the con was the fact that I threw 24 troglodytes at this party, no problem, because I didn't have to differentiate them.
No, and in that case you shouldn't.
Same hit points, so they could cut a SWAT through them, and I don't have to work. I don't have to go on a monster chart going, okay, this guy's taking this many hit points. This number 4 is taking this many hit points. Number 6 taking this.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
I understand, but at the same time, it's like when you're doing it tactically, when you're using figurines or icons in a virtual tabletop, it has to go down like that.
Yeah.
It's just not a name. It's just not a faceless horde. You can't do it that. Well, you can do it that way if you're just doing it in your heads, like we all did in the beginning.
I think there are special rules for like mooks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
that's another
mowing
thing.
down mooks.
Yeah.
That's another thing that we could talk about of our opposition and for combat and what to roll and when to roll it. But that's a different thing entirely. Just I love the mook rules, and I at one point I was playing my 2E and my 3E games with the vitality point and wound point system, which is introduced in your combat and tactics.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I had a DM do that long before that came out.
Yes.
And who did vitality points and hit points, and once you went through your vitality points and you started losing your hit points, that's when you started getting maimed.
Okay. What else?
But go ahead.
What's the next thing? You have to actually roll to attack.
Yes.
Fight.
Yes.
Fight.
Yeah.
Now, you can go with various incarnations of D&D have said, you shall do these things in this order, and this is the order that they shall be.
Oh, you mean like 1E? Yeah, missile fire first, melee, then magic.
Missile melee magic?
Yes, it's missile melee magic.
Nobody likes that, and everybody finds a way to get around that.
We always did magic missile melee.
Yeah.
Or
really?
Missile magic melee.
Wow. Okay.
Melee was always last.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that was the funny thing. It's like the mages kind of got the short end of the stick, because by the time they get their spells off, most of the opposition was down. So
or party members were now inside the blast radius.
Correct. which led to a whole bunch of other problems.
Yes.
But okay. Attack rolls are usually done with your D20, and of course as a sidebar there are optional rules for critical hits and fumbles going from double damage to just short of the venerable Rollmaster critical hit charts, which are absolutely brutal with a capital B.
Yeah.
And we're not even getting into surprise.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, surprise is fairly easy.
We skipped that. That was
we
before
did.
initiative.
Yeah, that's true.
We should
Yeah.
mention that. Surprise!
Yeah.
Surprise!
If there is a reason to have surprise at all, which can include both sessions, both groups, both people walk around the corner meeting each other, and they're both surprised. Well, guess what? Everybody stares at each other and nobody does anything because everyone's surprised.
Yeah, it's that.
If you have prepared ambushes.
Yep.
Prepared ambushes get to do things like combat before initiative and before people find out things are going on.
Correct.
People who can detect ambushes get to do interesting things.
Thieves and assassins try to really get that surprise, boy.
Oh, yes, we do.
Yep. Yeah, because assassins, if they attack with surprise, they can roll on the assassination chart going back to 1E.
And if it's in a backstab.
Yeah, you can assassinate and do an assassination attempt and a backstab with an assassin. So think about that.
With a ballista.
Yeah. Shout out to Corey.
Did I tell you that the Castle Crusades game I play with Gage, he's playing an assassin?
Yes, you did.
A half-elf assassin.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Like,
it's different.
He's growing up. He ain't taking those normal fighters and stuff. No, I want to kill people.
Good for him.
Yeah. Attack on the battle table.
Yeah, but he's neutral good.
Well, he's James Bond.
Yeah.
I should tell him you can be true neutral. How about that?
Yeah, that'll work.
Give him the Rima Williams books.
There you go.
All right.
But okay, now
so
attack rolls are done. Yes.
There's different ways that works too. If you have attacks, you have my attacks and then you have your attacks. If you have multiple attacks, there are ways to do that. There are some that can say you have all your attacks, do all your attacks.
Yeah.
Then you have other people who say you have your attacks and you're going to break them out by weapon speed, and they're going to do first attacks first and last attacks last.
Who could be that? Who could?
No, I don't do that.
There are various ways that they can interject in there, but you choose how your system is going to work for your table.
And then you got the guys who are good enough to do 3 attacks every 2 rounds.
Correct.
Which makes it interesting.
Yeah.
Now, what I watch out for with that, or when someone's doing I'm a hasted person throwing daggers, is do you want to roll all of your attacks at once, like a fistful of here's 4 D20s and I roll them all.
Yep.
And then you take the result with that. I have always found that to actually not be a useful thing. I know it adds time to the combat, and people hated that concept apparently. But I find it important that, at least at my table, the way I run it is when a fumble happens, you stop attacking. You're done.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means when you roll 4 dice and you get a 20, a 15, an 8, and a 1, what just happened?
Well, see, that's the reason why you have to roll them in succession and not all at once. They have to be done that way.
I much prefer it that way, but other DMs don't. And they can just say, okay, well, you get a crit and you get a fumble and you get these other things, and that might hit or might have missed, and we just resolve everything at once.
Yeah.
I like to give it a little bit more sequential feel to it, so I try to do dice, 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 and if you get your crit, you resolve it. If you get your fumble, you stop rolling dice. You're done.
Yep, exactly.
Now,
that example, I would like to have a lot of fun saying, you're hitting 4 people with 4 daggers. Okay, hit, crit, and the other guy grabs it and throws it back at you.
Yeah, and of course, some of that is also useful to keep people from throwing fistfuls of dice out on the table, saying, I'm doing my 5 attacks of open hand for my monkness on this dude.
Nope.
And of course, he dies after the first hit point kills him, and you just keep pummeling the dead body.
Yeah.
This gives the player the opportunity to do a redirect, which I allow, and that is, I have multiple attacks. I attack this guy. He goes down. My call to action was attacking. I don't have anything to attack left anymore, but I have attacks left. I'll take a -1 penalty and attack the next guy in line and keep rolling. It works.
Yeah, so in other words, you're doing cleave.
Ish.
Yeah, ish.
Sort of a sweep.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweep, cleave,
and
whatever.
And that's one of the things I miss about first edition is the damn sweep attack. when you're going up against kobolds and you are surrounded and you are a 6th level fighter and you get 6 attacks against all of those kobolds around you. I miss that, and I
You need
want
a
to
red
bring that
shirt.
back.
You really need a red shirt rule then.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. But actually, no, I take that back. They brought that back in combat and tactics,
Yeah,
but
that's called vitality and wound points.
yeah, no, no,
That's
no, no.
their
No, they brought
that,
that back but the problem is you
yeah.
have to be 10th level in order to use it
Yeah, that too.
against 1-1 or worse. And then as you get to 11th level, then it's 1 hit die creatures, then 1+1, and so forth and so on. It's kind of, yeah, it's
There's an
kind of a
interesting
compromise.
Now,
mechanic. Go ahead.
Carry on. I was going to say dovetailing with the how many attacks you get and you roll your attack dice in whatever sequence are happening. People came up with the idea that, hey, it saves time if I roll my damage dice, my attack dice at the same time, whether
Absolutely
I hit
not.
or not. I don't find any value added in that whatsoever, but other people apparently think there really is.
Yeah, because they're trying to get over is what it is.
Yeah. And then you can't necessarily if I'm using, say, a two-handed sword and I'm getting my 3d6 for my attack and I'm rolling 2 attacks and I roll 66 out there, which of those 3 dice go with this and which 3 dice go with that?
Yeah.
That gets into things of either you have color-coded dice and I'm going to have the 3 green dice or the first strike and the 3 blue dice or the second strike or whatever you want to do with that. If that's your flavor of the game, go ahead, do it and enjoy it. It might work for you. It just does not work for me.
Correct. That's why I break them up. That's why you get your first attack on your initiative if you have multiple attacks. Then you get your later attack at the end of the round after everyone is gone. That way you can't. That cuts that whole issue, possible headache, possible point of player DM conflict completely out. That's the reason why I use it.
I like splitting the difference on that. I would let people have their multiple attacks all up front. But I make them sequence their rolls.
Correct.
First roll, second roll, third roll, damage, miss.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yep.
But I don't make them wait around twiddling their thumbs until the end of the round to suddenly get their heroic whatever they were going to do last action. Because things change too fast.
Yeah, that's true.
I kind of like, when I'm playing with Gage here the last time, I'm using the Solo Heroes rules from Kevin Crawford that I downloaded for free, who has a new book out called Scarlet Heroes, which is also about solo games, one-on-ones. But what?
You said you were done with plugs.
No, I'm not. I did not say I was done with plugs. I said I was done with that plug.
I'm sorry. I stand corrected.
You're standing between. Don't stand between me and my point. Okay?
Yeah.
Or he'll plug you.
Yeah. Well said.
But anyway, he came up with something I'm thinking of integrating maybe in my games called fray dice.
Okay.
Because the way they do like lower damage and stuff, because you're playing one-on-one. And they've got a way of doing it like instead of hit dice for the creatures, they're 4 hit dice, they have 4 hit points, blah, 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 blah. Well, anyway, what they do is they introduce fray dice. He says if you're attacking a creature and you have like dice left over, say the creature has 1 hit point and you do 4.
Okay.
You have the option to strike, use the rest of those 3 points on adjacent creatures if they are compared to your level of hit dice or lower.
Okay.
So on the mooks, he could do it on the mooks, but on the big vampire, he gets to roll a d6 again and see how many more you took out.
Okay.
Wow.
So more cleavish.
Yeah, that's more like cleave.
I like the way they work that. You get the hit dice are lower, but you can't do it on the big bad.
Right. Yeah, that's a good compromise. I like that.
Yeah. So
okay,
that's my point.
now,
I'm done. Go.
Okay, moving on from attacks. Now, if you attack and you hit, of course you inflict your damage. Longsword, short sword, arrow, two-handed sword, mace, flail,
Spells
whatever
that
it is.
Require attack rolls.
Correct. Yeah, that too. Thank you for pointing that out. That's fairly straightforward. You just make sure. Now, people do it differently, but the way I've always done it is I always have all my bonuses added in, so all I do is roll a die, add the number, that's the damage. And that way I don't have to think about it. And that's helped my basic math skills, by the way. Now, okay.
So
Now, in damage, of course, if you inflict enough damage to incapacitate or kill an enemy, that enemy falls immediately. It's not like BattleTech where they still get their attacks back on you even though they're dead. It's basically if they fall right then, they're done. They
Kill
don't get
drop
anything.
initiative.
Correct.
Initiative is a real tangible thing. That's something else to keep in mind too.
No. The corpse, the spirit of the ghost of the corpse gets out of his body, grabs the cleaver, and just goes at you.
Well, that's where you get into describing your battles dynamically or not, and it's not the assumption that this is all happening over the course of a minute and it's all simultaneous and it's a flurry of blows. No, I kind of like the meaty crunch of did you go first or did you not go first? If I stuck you first, you're going down first. Eat it.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely. And wash, rinse, repeat. Now, in the case of spells going off, you have to make your saving throws. In some cases, if you're fighting, like say in water or you're fighting in mud, where you need to,
Dex checks, strength
keep
checks,
correct.
other feats,
your
and
terrain
other skill checks.
Yep. And then, of course, after everything's resolved, you can either, like Falon said, keep the number static and you just go in order from lowest to highest, or you can just re-roll. Now, I always choose to re-roll because I like the changing tides of battle, the changing fortunes in battle. Right. I mean, Falon, you've been a soldier for a long time. You can speak to that. Where things are going a certain way for a certain amount of time, then all of a sudden even by random happenstance, things just completely change, and now everyone involved has to readapt to whatever's going on in front of you. So,
Absolutely.
And that's, to me, that's the initiative role. I mean, in combat and tactics, even take that a step further where there's the effects of the battlefield that could either give you a bonus or give you some sort of penalty. It's sort of like you get, your foot gets caught underneath a root or something like that. -1 or +1 to your AC.
And then
like
it gets to the point, since we're doing magic range melee or whatever it is, we're down to lather, rinse, and repeat. We did not talk much about ranged combat. Not talk just about spells. I'm talking about the guy with the bow.
The guy with the bow.
Again, it's all attacks. That's why. That's why I let the people. I don't break it by mages go first, then range people, then melee people. You have the initiative. You've won the initiative. You're the actor. What are you doing? Do this or do not do this. Next.
Yeah. What are you doing? Yeah. Who are you going to shoot, Legolas? How far away is he?
Yes,
and
that is the next. That's the other thing you have to consider. Aside from melee and range, you have to consider range.
Yeah, correct. And the funny part is that when people are using bows in combat, in melee combat, the melee combat, I mean, not melee, but whatever they're shooting at is usually no further away than, say, 70 or 80 feet. Right on the, for bows, right on the cusp of medium range. It's usually no further than that. Only when they're trying to shoot the fleeing enemy in the back as they're running away, completely routed, and the bloodthirstier characters want to get a little bit more blood for, whatever.
XP.
Yeah, exact XP. Sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Well, there's also the practical people like me, like shoot him before he goes and tells the rest of the dungeon we're here.
Correct.
That's the excuse we give to dungeon masters. We just want the XP.
Or we don't want them to warn the others. Yeah, so we're going to shoot them in the back. But yeah, I mean,
go tell your friends, bring them back. We want more XP.
Now, I mean, yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I mean, as far as range combat goes, the way they did it in combat and tactics works for me because I just put everything on a grid, and each grid is 5 feet. And the way they've reworked the bows and the crossbows, and they finally fixed the crossbows after 30 years of them not being quite powerful enough, even though they're supposed to be more powerful than bows, but that's a whole nother argument.
When I think of crossbows, as much as I like crossbows, as much as I like having my characters have crossbows, for some reason, the way you talk about underpowered crossbows, I cannot get out of my mind the Vincent Price movie Mask of the Red Death.
Okay.
Where he shoots his friend off the ramparts to save him.
Yes.
And he goes, "For you, friend," and it goes clink.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, there was a lot of power in that one.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounded like a toy crossbow.
I mean, I'm sorry, but a heavy crossbow should not be doing a maximum of 7 points. No.
Yeah.
Because that thing is device driven, and that thing has more punch than most longbows. And they finally fixed it. They upped the damage. They upped the range. They gave an armor penetration effect to it. So yeah, crossbows, they may shoot slower, but they are much more dangerous.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, so as far as the range goes, it's like I said, on the battlefield, 1 square is 5 feet. One character can occupy 1 square. So most of the time in combat, when everything's down and dirty, it's like the Siege of Helm's Deep when Legolas is just running around through combat, shooting everything at point blank range.
He can do that though. He's an elf.
Yeah,
He can do that.
yeah, he's an elf and one badass elf too. But yeah, I mean, so range combat, it's not as it wasn't the bugaboo, the mystical I kind of don't grok it kind of topic it was like in first edition. In basic it was fairly simple. In first edition, because they decided to go in order, in certain orders, it was like, the archer kind of was
artificial. Yeah, it
exactly
got painful, and then
a little bit.
Yeah, we had to work around that, so we changed it.
Yeah, we did.
Anyway, that's pretty much the order of combat as we see it.
Yep.
You forgot something.
What? Oh, morale checks.
Two things.
Okay.
Morale checks.
Okay.
And system shocks. In case people take more than 50 points of damage in one hit.
Yeah, that triple
die.
Yep, the triple damage from a heavy crossbow shot. Yes, that could work.
Yeah, I think we took that one out.
Yeah. No, that's in effect in my game. It's just that it never came about. It never came about that that.
And
50,
now thanks to full on, he jinxed us.
And you also have to assess as a DM if you want to be kind and generous and loving, and let people have perhaps the cumulative of, did you take more than 50 points this round?
In a round, yeah, that's the cyberpunk rule.
By the straight law of it and say, no, you have to take over 50 points in a
single
hit,
attack. No, that's
or
what
spell or whatever.
Now see, depending, that can go either way.
Well, yeah, that's why I couched it with such flowery language, because whatever the players ask for, give it to them. Give it to them in spades.
In spades. I was just about to say that. Oh, yeah. So,
and
okay.
It can go both ways.
Yeah, so, yeah, system shocks on the rare occasion. I mean, that only usually comes up in, like, really high level or higher level, let's say, combats, like say around 7th, 8th level, when you're running into
high walls.
Yeah, that too. Because if a boulet critical hits you with its bite, that's a really bad day. Okay, so yeah, that system shock, that's a rare thing. Now the morale check at the end, which is what a DM should do. Now there are certain criterias for morale checks. Usually when the leader goes down, when the opposition loses a quarter of its force, 50% of its force, and things like that. Those are the more common ones. Those three instances, those are more common ones.
You can also be generous, possibly, and inflict that on individuals. If, say, orc number 5 just lost, he has 2 hit points left after that one hit.
Yeah.
He might reassess his life choices at this point. And individually choose to break and run. Not the whole squad, but one particular orc.
Yeah.
That
you can cause fear without...
It adds a wrinkle into the combat, and it might add another decision point if you need it. But again, depending on the level and style of your play, and whether or not you're slaughtering them with a squad of Urukai, or if they're cakewalking through a kobold, litter, then you need to decide whether or not that's an appropriate thing to have involved, and not necessarily in every single combat, just if it happens to crop up.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
If I can throw up an illusion of a dragon in front of an orc, I'll just, there's no roll. He loads his pants and leaves.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes, and that's a whole thing about adjudicating illusions that we'll get into some other time. But sure. Yeah, if a player,
There's no morale to that.
yeah, it's like, oh boy, yeah, for sure. So yeah,
Anyway,
But does that fall with saving throws for disbelief? That also falls in the morale check window. If somebody finally makes a decision along that point.
Yeah.
You mean it's not real? I disbelieve.
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Did you? Did you really?
Talking to full-on sometimes is like dealing with napalm.
It just burns.
It burns, and you can douse it, but you can't scrape it off, and it still burns. It just stays there.
It's going to burn until there's nothing left.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, tell us about your, how do you handle combat? THACOshammer@gmail.com.
Yes, please.
Finally, it's in the book.
If we go by the book, hours would seem like days.
Go buy the book! Buy the book!
By the book?
By the book.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Don't go by the book. Think like a pirate.
It's in the book.
It's in the book. Okay, attack options from Combat and Tactics, page 42 to 47.
Correct.
Apparently we have a lot of them.
Yes, it's not just this kind of dovetails with the sequence of combat. Now, for those players who want more choices or more, to be able to do more rather than just walk up to the orc and swing at it, or do, or so whatever else, you have other options. These were culled from like the Fighter's Handbook, which is a godsend as far as making fighters a lot more versatile just by regular, quote unquote, regular actions, let's say. Um, but in combat and tactics, they clean them up. They come up with a little bit of a different system for some things, and most of them make sense, although I do things a little differently. Okay, now the first one. Now the first one is the opposed role. Now, let's just say two people are wrestling for an item and they're trying to prize it from them, and it's like a fighter with a 17 strength and like a mage with like a 9 strength or something like that. The opposed role is fairly easy. Basically, you just have to make a check against your ability, like a strength check. You have to. It's the Price is Right. Get as close as you can without going over. And of course, with an 18th strength fighter, that's a lot easier for him to do rather than the 9 strength mage trying to hold on to whatever staff he's got, and things like that. I mean, it sounds complex, but it really isn't, especially if you watch The Price is Right like I did in my childhood. Okay, the next thing, the block. Now, this is one of those things where I've always allowed this as a DM, especially with characters with multiple attacks, and especially when those characters are wearing armor that make them a little squishy. Full on, I'm looking right at you. Well, I would if my camera was on.
I buckle my swash by blocking attacks at other people. If you want to hit me, you got to catch me. The point I try to use block for usually is when I have to, if I'm the shield buddy for the mage, and here comes the orc who's not paying attention to me, he's after the mage. Well, I'm going to try to block shots at the mage.
Correct. And that's a really good way of using the option to block an attack more than just saving your own bacon. Now with in my game, I have martial artist and monk character classes. They have this ability as a class ability, but I do it differently. In the game, it's basically the person trying to block an attack has to make an attack roll against armor class 4. And the opponent is making an attack roll against their own armor class, or the attacker's armor class. And the attack is blocked if the character succeeds with a lower roll than her enemy succeeded with. Now, that's a little too complex for me, especially when I'm trying to run combat. Now, with me, I just did it in it's an option in the Fighter's Handbook. You just make an attack roll against your opponent's armor class, and you block the attack. It's make it simple, make it easy, 1 die roll, no comparisons, done. Okay.
I usually go with just a simple, do you beat their roll?
Right, and that's another way to do it. But especially dealing with lower level characters and higher level.
Everyone's missing anyway at that point. It doesn't really matter.
You have a point. Okay, the next one, called shot. Now that's fairly easy. Called shot, is any point on the body, specific point on the body you want to hit, it's a -40 or attack roll. Easy. Now, if you're trying to make
-6 if you're targeting the genitals.
Yeah.
It's amazing how
basically
many people will try.
It's 4, 6, or 8,
Yeah.
depending on the size and the complexity of what you're aiming for. You
Correct.
either give them a flat 4,
Mm-hmm.
a specific 6, or a really hard 8.
Yep. Yeah. And that's different from the fighter's handbook where this came from, because it was usually 4 or 8. It was 4 for pretty much the entire body and 8 for the head.
I gotta be careful because mine's a -2.
The other point of the called shot is to do the firing missile weapons into melee without risk of hitting an ally.
Correct.
Eat your -4, fire into melee, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
I usually don't.
But you
Take
did.
The called shot. I just fire into the melee. I need
Yeah,
the
you
part.
just did.
You gotta have
Yes,
some.
you did.
You gotta have some mad THACO for that.
Yeah, and yeah, full on didn't have Mad THACO, but yeah. And between you and Allie's character, yeah, there were a couple of instances. Well, the funny part is that there was one time where full on was shooting at one person in melee or one enemy in melee, missed and hit his compatriot, which was kind of funny.
Me?
But, no,
Hey,
no.
Another enemy.
Yeah,
which
another
is fine.
enemy. Yeah, which is fine because the right people took damage. Okay.
Well, it's better than the dwarf going all death wish on everybody. So.
Well, yeah. and said swashbuckler pulling his fat out of the fire, which was actually kind of cool.
Yep.
And I did give you guys XP for that, by the way.
And remember also the value of remembering equipment.
Mm-hmm.
People who don't wear helms have AC 10 heads.
Correct. Even with a -8, that's still armor class 2, which is okay.
Gettable.
And you people are still wondering why you should get a helm?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't add to my armor class.
I'll shoot him in the face.
If there's headshots, it does.
Yep, pretty much. Okay, now moving on. The disarm. Now, this is a teeny bit complex, but it's okay. There are two types of disarming, offensive and defensive, and they both work basically the same way. Character who wishes to use either type of disarm must allocate one of his attacks for the round to the feat of trying to do it. If the disarm is a defensive one, it's resolved before the attacker rolls to hit. Okay, that's fairly easy. The attacker attempting to do the disarm must roll against AC 0, and the victim has to roll against AC 4. It's that kind of comparative thing.
Yeah.
It's my whole thing is that it's one of those things where it could be done a little bit differently. I'd still give the penalty, but if you hit, the opponent just basically has to make a strength check to see if he holds onto the weapon, and if not, it flies out of his hand, just to make it a little more streamlined. But that's just me.
Too many games.
Or I'd even allow things like a spellcraft or a concentration check to resist the urge to drop your staff or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily a strength thing, because sometimes it is not just strength raw. Because they try to make disarm so complex, no one ever wants to really try it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are ways to make it a opposed roll. You did it, you didn't. You kept it, you didn't. You might have resisted it, you didn't. There's different flavors of it, but
correct.
One of the other restrictions they have in here is a size limitation.
Yes.
How you can't disarm things over 2 sizes weapon larger than your own.
Yeah, you can't disarm somebody wielding a two-handed sword when you're wielding a dagger.
I take issue with that.
You mean a hobbit? Halfling. You mean a halfling can't take a hill giant and step on his foot and make him drop
It's more about the weapon sizes.
Okay.
The weapons themselves, but I think I can do a whole lot with a dagger against a two-handed sword, especially if I'm cutting his tendons.
Yeah, I was gonna say then that comes into called shots, because you can actually try to hit his arm, hit his hand, loosen, basically slicking the handle of the sword with blood. If you do it enough, or if you inflict enough damage,
I think too many games have hit locations as a general rule. As far as that goes, hit locations and call shots should be the exception, not the rule.
That I agree with. I mean, I understand why. I think that's why they kind of made it a little complex to keep it from being the rule and being the exception that it should be. I agree.
And they're also, they basically devalue the whole point. They say that you can use missile weapons to disarm people, but then they make it sure that you understand in the written rule that, we're going by the size of the missile, not the weapon that fired it. So
Yeah, and
I
I disagree
disarm
with
it.
that.
Yeah, again, I disagree as well because the point of me shooting the person in the hand with the heavy crossbow to make them drop their sword should generally make them drop their sword.
Yeah.
Or stick their hand to the sword, one of the two, but
Yeah.
it's not going to make it very effective to use
Now,
anymore.
the crossbow bolt, yes. If you got a sling bullet, that's something different.
Again, how many things can you disarm with a fine? I might be able to, again, and you're not always disarming the weapon in hand. What if I'm disarming your wand? What if I'm disarming your vial of flaming oil?
Point. I put it on a case by case basis, sure. You know, I could see like anything up to say like a long sword could be disarmed like by someone shooting a bullet at the hand, but that's going to require your called shot. Then on top of that, then whatever mechanic you use to see if the victim gets disarmed by it.
What if I'm going all Ninja's Handbook on you? I'm using my Nikode to block your two-handed sword strike and then take your weapon away with my little climbing claws.
That's true. Yeah, you could do it that way.
That's the design of the intended weapon.
Case by case basis. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Grabbing. Now that's fairly easy. You know, I'm sorry, but it shouldn't require you hitting somebody's armor class if they're, say, in like chainmail armor or whatever for you to grab onto them. It should be. Go ahead.
No problem.
No,
well, this isn't about grabbing a person. This rule is about grabbing their stuff.
Oh, items. Yes. I'm sorry.
This is like disarming, except you're not using weapons to do it. You're using your fingers.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Champions where you can actually fumble grabbing somebody right next to you. You can do it. I've seen it done.
I believe it. Yeah, sort of like grabbing a wand out of the enemy mage's hand or something like that. You know, or things like that. Okay, so that's the AC0, AC4 mechanic again.
Yeah, with penalties for the size of the target, like if you're snatching the ring off someone's hand, -8 penalty.
Yeah, and it goes from there. So it's sort of up to the DM to figure out what the penalty is. But usually, as a rule, the smaller the item, the more difficult the attempt should be. Okay. Overbearing. Now, okay. I have such an issue with this tactic because jerk DMs who want to make a point. I mean, I saw this on Dragon's Foot last week, and it just makes me grind my teeth to powder. Where they're talking about how like 4 or like 5 or like 6 goblins can take out a 20th level fighter. No, they can't. I'm sorry. No, they can't. A first level fighter, sure. A 5th level fighter, maybe. A 10th level fighter, if they're lucky. But anything above that, no. But that's just me. I digress. Excuse me. Overbearing, of course, is basically using your physical mass or the physical mass of multiple people to knock somebody down and to pin them. Yeah, basically, and knock them down and pin them. Basically.
Now I'm talking about WWE or even Olympic or high school wrestling. You're just doing the old backwoods wrestling.
You want to know something funny as an aside? Because I was so into wrestling back then, I actually used wrestling moves in my 1E campaign. Okay. Using those wrestling charts and all that kind of crap and those percentiles. I actually did, clotheslines, drop kicks, snap mares.
I hated that chart.
I didn't like it much either.
I hated that chart because I didn't do wrestling or overbearing, but I was the guy who wanted to. Oh, the hell with it! I want to punch him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Why can't I just punch him? Oh, you got to roll in the dirt. Well, you kicked him. No, I punched him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where you spend additional proficiency slots, and you get to control where you fall on the table by points.
Correct. And see, the funny part is that we're getting off topic, but the funny part is that when you punch somebody, you basically do 2 rolls. 2. Not 1. Like the book says, because it's too damn confusing. You do 2. 1 to see if you actually hit. The second roll to see exactly what the punch is. whether
Yes.
it is a haymaker, a jab, a cross, whatever it is.
To me, that is wrong.
Okay.
Wrong. It's been wrong since first edition. I shouldn't have to roll a chart to tell. I want to do a right cross. Well, you did a haymaker. What's
Yeah.
the damage? Same thing. What's the difference?
Well, actually, it's knockout chances, but we'll leave that alone. That's another
And
time
that's
for
why
another
they've
story.
duplicated several of the punches across the spectrum of the die roll, and you have it duplicating to the high and the low ends, and you can pick what part of the spectrum you go to depending on how many proficiency slots you've thrown into it.
Okay, correct. But yeah, we're getting off the topic. Okay,
But that's
overbearing.
not in this book.
No,
We're doing
it's
the other
not.
things.
Overbearing. Now, like I said, this is one of those where jerk DMs try to use this tactic to basically hamstring the player. No other reason. There's no other reason for it. But the whole thing is that sometimes you need to bum rush, the ogre. All 6 of you have to bum rush him and bear him to the floor for some reason and keep him pinned down for whatever reason. Or you have a berserker in your party that you need to bear down before he kills you all of you.
I did the old. I was in a game one time playing a dwarf, and there was a halfling in our party who was. We were both captured by these orcs, and we did the old. Let's start a fight and see if we can get them off guard thing. And I started yelling at the halfling about how you got us into this and stuff. It's like he was yelling back, and I leaped over the table and tackled him. Threw the orcs off, but then we both got up and swung, all of a sudden, hey, there's our weapons. Boom, wham, with the orcs.
Yep.
That's what we were trying to do. I didn't need to roll on a table for that.
Right.
That's overbearing.
Yeah.
This is what this is. It's flying tackle. You get +1 for each additional attacker. They adjust it. You're going against the natural AC of the target, which means I don't care if you're wearing plate mail, you're AC 10 for this.
Yep.
And then you get a bonus or penalty per size difference.
Yeah.
And you get a bonus per additional attacker and a penalty if the defender has more than 2 legs.
Correct. Of course, because it's harder to tackle a horse than it is a man. Yeah.
They give some judgments in here for evaluating strengths if you didn't get a strength score for your monster or critter or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
And they have an option of just using a saving throw versus paralyzation instead of the opposed strength check.
Which actually works a little better. It streamlines it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, every time I see that word overbear in combat, it kind of makes my blood boil a little bit. But let's move on. Okay, pull trip.
Pull trip.
Yeah, pull trip is something that player characters should.
That's pull/trip,
right? Correct. I'm sorry. Basically, you have to make a normal attack roll if you hit. It's an opposed roll against the defender's dex or strength, whichever is better. Of course, you revert to a save versus paralyze if you're, whatever they're trying to trip or pull doesn't have a strength score or a dex score. So, if the attacker wins, the defender's knocked down. If the defender wins or if both fail, the attack fails. If the roll is a tie, they both get knocked down. That's pretty easy. Of course, they have examples for, size difference. If the attacker's strength has 4 legs, like with the overbearing and stuff. If the defender's unaware of it, or if the defender was stationary. And it makes it easy. It's a very underused tactic, especially like if, let's say, you're trying to capture or you're trying to keep a mage from casting a spell and you're not going to, just for whatever reason you don't want to attack, just do an attack, either overbear him, tackle him, or trip him. Yeah, knock him down.
I'm not grabbing the mummy. You grab the mummy.
Yeah, well, there's certain things you shouldn't try to do.
There's also like using weapons for that. One of my favorite colorful weapons that don't do crap in damage is the bullwhip.
Yeah, the whip. Yeah,
it's great for tripping people.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best thing to do with it because against armored opponents it does nothing. Okay, sapping. Now this one has been used in my experience has been used quite a bit.
I've had fighters with brass knuckles before.
Yeah. Yeah, brass knuckles, using the pommel of a sword, things like that. Just
a
to
sock with gold pieces in it.
Yeah, exactly. Sure,
Other
why not?
character, a dead body,
Yeah,
anything is useful.
yeah, and basically what it is, you're trying to knock somebody out without killing him, basically.
I had to talk and talk and talk a DM to let me do something one time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got mind controlled by a vampire.
Okay.
And he told me to strike another party member.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up the vampire by the ankles and swung him at the party member. He didn't say with what.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's bad. That's badly worded. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Okay. Sap is a type of called shot. There is a -4 penalty to hit. -8 if the defender's wearing a helmet of some sort. Small or medium creatures can be sapped. Large monsters cannot be knocked out that way. When the attacker scores a hit, they may knock out the opponent. If there's a 5% chance per point of damage to knock out the victim up to a maximum of 40. Now, I would double that if you were attacking for unnoticed from behind.
Well, they have that.
Yeah.
Knockout chance increases to 10% per point of damage, max 80% if the victim is surprised, asleep, restrained, or magically held in some way.
Yes, thank you. I missed that part. I'm reading in some low light here. I missed it. Yeah, but yeah, that's one of those where, yeah, you are trying to infiltrate in some place and you don't want to leave a trail of bleeding and broken bodies behind you. So yes, use a little stealth and, you know, blap them on the back of the head. I mean,
it's the old standard subdual damage. Quarter of it is real. Do more damage than they have. They get knocked out anyway, etc., etc.
Correct.
This is why I carry a roll of gold pieces wherever I go.
The nice thing they have in here is they actually say characters are knocked out and unconscious for 3d10 full rounds. They actually give a value to how long someone is knocked out.
Correct. That was something that they
never have had before.
Yeah, they neglected to say that. Yeah. Okay. Shield punch, that's pretty obvious. It's, like using two weapons because you're using your shield offensively rather than defensively. Of course, depending on the size of the shield is the damage you do. That's easy. The shield.
Put that door in your shield. You open it up, punch. Hey, shield punch.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Oliver Platt and freaking Three Musketeers. What? Okay, the shield rush. This is something no one I have ever seen use.
But it is effective when it is.
Yeah, you have to have a 10-foot running start to do a shield rush, and if you make one, it's treated as a charge attack. Of course, if you're trying to do a shield rush against someone with a set spear, that could go badly for you. Yeah. Make your attack roll against the AC. Some shields may provide modifiers or bonuses to the rush, and there's a chart for that later on in this book. If the shield has been used for a rush, of course you can't use that shield for its original purpose, which is to keep you from getting hit. If the shield bearer hits, it's an opposed strength roll. Like I said, closest to your strength score without growing over wins it. The loser of the opposed roll falls down. If both characters fail the strength roll, they both fall. So, and there are, of course, modifiers for size and unaware and having 4 legs, which is fairly easy.
You know what's weird about this?
What's that?
All these maneuvers you mentioned, I've seen at least once, if not more, in Champions. Never in D&D.
Yeah, because you want to know something? Unless you make it available to your players immediately, they don't use it.
It's also like they learn the game, but they never read the book.
Correct, and that's something that, and I was remiss in doing it in Hammers of the Duchy.
You have to teach it by doing it to the players.
Yeah, then there's
right.
that.
Do that? Yes, you can.
That's what I was surprised. That's what I was surprised at Matt's game Matt's group when I started running them. 2 or 3 of them, they actually read the book. They say, "I want to do this." Really?
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Every once in a while, the players come up with something that you're like, okay, at least somebody is looking at other ways of being effective in combat aside from just wielding their weapons. Okay.
Yeah.
Weapon trapping, that's fairly straightforward. It's the AC0 versus AC4 thing. I would use the attack versus armor class, but with a penalty. because you're not just trying to block the attack, you're trying to trap the weapon. So you're trying to do something that requires a little bit more skill.
More than a disarm.
Yes.
Or more than a block, less than a disarm.
Correct.
Keeping the weapon occupied from being involved in next round's combat.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then the next one is the trap and break, which is the same thing, except you're putting force against the weapon to try the opponent's weapon to try and break it.
Right.
And
think Sauron versus at the beginning of the movie.
Isildur.
Yeah. Isildur and his sword.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not quite. That's just
that was a fumble.
That's just I'm going with a weapon breaker and crushing things.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a two-step process. First, you must trap.
Mm-hmm.
Then, now that you have a weapon trapped, you can try to break it.
Yeah.
That makes it awkward, but not impossible, but usually too much trouble for people to actually bother with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rather than just, I want to attack your weapon and destroy it.
Yeah, that's sort of a desperation kind of tactic, because I've never seen somebody try to do it who didn't have martial arts. But okay. And of course, Glenn, as you were saying before, when you want to punch somebody, the unarmed attack.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. And
always spend at least 1 point in becoming a specialist in unarmed combat so that you can punch the guy without provoking your attack of opportunity.
And then
correct.
let's not forget the brawling skill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's there, and that is and that gives you, and that's a proficiency somewhere if I'm not mistaken, and that gives you a bonus to your unarmed attacks if I'm not mistaken.
It does.
Mm-hmm. And
you can pour slots into it, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least is the wonderful unhorsing your enemy. Of course, knocking your enemy off of a steed.
See, that's where you need bolos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, bolos, or a thief who comes out of hard camera right. Yeah,
but there's always 5 ways that you can unhorse or unseat any mounted enemy.
Yes.
1, knockdown.
Yeah.
If you're using that rule, fall down.
Yeah, if you're using that rule, yes.
2, I hit you with 10 or more points of damage.
Yep.
You have to make a check to stay mounted.
Yeah. Whether it be a dex check and a penalty, or your land-based riding check. Yeah.
Flying riding proficiency check, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Pull trip.
Yep.
Going for the character or the mount with a pull trip attack.
Yep.
Remember, you can always swing at the mount.
Yep.
Overbearing, either grappling the mounted person off of the mount or
nobody ever shoots
attacking the mount.
Or you could do it like Conan did it. Punch the horse.
Punch the camel.
Mongo, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, and of course, kill the mount.
Yeah, just kill the steed.
This goes along with my every time I watch a cop show when the bad guys are getting away. Why aren't you shooting the tires? That'll stop them.
Yeah. Well, they just lay down spike strips now. They don't want to get hit with a wrongful death lawsuit now.
I had to pay for their tires, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the additional attacks you can do aside from just walking up to your enemy and swinging at it.
And one last thing is special weapon attacks. Some special weapons have unique special characteristics that have a special thing that they can do in the weapon description.
Yep.
That's always a special attack you can do.
Yep.
Like the bullwhip, like the trident, like the
3-piece staff.
Man catcher.
Yeah, man catcher.
Nunchucks can do it too.
Okay, speaking of getting into that, did we do a monk show?
Yes, well, long ass time ago.
Okay, because I was wondering when we could work in like martial arts maneuvers from like combat and tactics and stuff, and we should do one like that, and plus the weapons, so how they relate to this kind of thing as far as maneuvers go.
Okay, we can do that. We could do that. I'll add that into like a future show, if not next show, the one after it. We can do that.
Anyway,
you guys.
Yes.
Full on.
Anyway. And ways to house rule such things to make them work even better.
Definitely.
Anyway, if you know about attack options, you got your own. Let us know about it. THACOShammer@gmail.com or the number
405-806-0555.
And with that, we need to close the splat book so we can go on with our real lives. Wait a minute, this is our... What am I talking?
We're going to call that a swing and a miss.
Yes.
Close to a fumble, but not quite.
This is my real life because I got so many more on character sheets. But anyway, I got to go, so we got to go. So say goodnight, Falon.
Good night, Gamer Nation. Hey, how do you define a moron character sheet?
That's a good question.
Brian.
Oh, good night, folks, and just remember, if you see that knight in full plate armor aside from that horse, walk up to it and hit the horse right between the eyes, knock him right over most of the time.
And remember, Mongo just pawned in Game of Life. So, and I am DM Glenn saying with that wonderful thought, we'll see you next time when the hammer comes down on THACO's Hammer. Bye-bye. You think I was going to let that one go?
Yeah, I was
get you as my man catcher.
Yeah.
That's what I'd rather have.
THACO's Hammer theme is provided by the Diablo Swing Orchestra. You'll find them on Jamendo.com. All other additional music for this episode was provided by Kevin MacLeod. You'll find more of his music on Incompetech.com. Be sure to visit our website at thacoshammer.info. If you have any questions or comments, email us at thacoshammer@gmail.com. Remember, that's an O, not a 0. You can also find us on the second edition forums at osrgaming.org and at purpleworm.org. Or give us a call and leave us a voicemail at 405-806-0555. See you next time when the hammer comes down on THACO's Hammer.